Hey guys, welcome to the episode 5 of my podcast Pathways to the Ivies. Today on this episode we have the very wonderful Mr. Aarav Agarwal. He is a 12th grader or इसको क्या बोलते हैं freshman sophomore junior senior हाँ. So he is a 12th grader or a senior from high school, and he studies at the prestigious Jayashree Periwal International School. Very recently he has gotten his admit in the early decision 2 round at the Vanderbilt University for a major in economics. And in this podcast today, we're going to discuss his profile, his subjects, what was his thought process behind applying for Vanderbilt, how did he get in his journey, and more than anything else, the mistakes that he did as a part of his journey, so that students listening, students, parents, and everybody else listening to this should not repeat it. So, hi Arav, welcome to the podcast. Super happy to have you over here, and super excited to discuss your journey.
Hello, ma'am. I'm really happy to be here as well. It's quite nice to be able to talk about, the mistakes I made and like some achievements I've done. And like throughout my journey, I have just picked up things by looking at other podcasts and just working my way through like looking at other applicants and like, how their applications worked out. So it's great to be of some help to other people as well. So it's good to be
Perfect.
here.
Perfect. So, welcome to the show. And before we get started, I did definitely introduce you, but if you can go ahead and give a little bit about yourself, where do you come from, what do you do, what your interests are, and all the good stuff, so that students could relate to you at a student level.
Okay, so initially since seventh grade, I've been in a boarding school named Doon School. I studied there till like 10th grade, and later on I shifted to JPIS, and that's where I like fulfilled my IBDP program from. I had I had a IGCSE program in my 10th and ninth grade, and I was sort of average in sports. I had decent grades. I did not have any SATs, and I've had quite good extracurriculars for my college applications. I did not get into my ED1. My first choice was NYU. That's where like I got waitlisted from that, and later on I was admitted into my second option. That was my Vanderbilt in ED2.
Wonderful. So glad that you're so open about things that you didn't make it to as well, which is NYU. A lot of students that we come across feel that if you don't get accepted to your ED1, or don't get accepted to your dream schools, people feel that you're no good. So I think the fact that you took that in stride is a testament to the idea that maybe your ED2 results can be better than ED1, because I personally believe that Vanderbilt is not only a better suited college for you, but in the longer perspective and scheme of things, it's also a better school as compared to NYU for you as a student, not just general and your major. What's your take on that?
Definitely, Mama. I don't think it's a rejection for me. I think it's a redirection. Initially, I had this idea and this New York life notion in my mind while I was applying to colleges, and I was like sort of blindsided by a lot of things. Like, for example, NYU does not have a campus. I've always been a very campus loving person. I thought I'd like a more close knit community, and maybe NYU was not the best fit for me in that regard. So, landing in Vanderbilt has actually been a blessing for me in sorts because Vanderbilt has all of those things. It's a beautiful campus. The community is really great. Some people have been reaching out to me already. After like my parents, like like some other old parents reached out to my parents. So it's been a great experience till now in Vanderbilt. And definitely, like the amount of colleges every single person applies, I don't think anyone should take it on their ego or self esteem as what some other college decides if they want to accept you or not. Because it's really not a evaluation of you what your worth is. I think it's not a very linear process of admission. There are various factors that no one can actually pinpoint. So from that perspective, I don't think anyone should take any of these decisions to to their heart. And I think it's been a great ride for me. While I got into Vanderbilt, I actually got better than what I had expected in the start of my journey. So I'm damn happy about it.
Wonderful. So let's start with the academics part of it. If you can elaborate to our viewers and listeners, what your HL and SL subjects were, And why did you go about choosing your HL and SL? What was your rationale while you did that? Were you very sure that economics is what you want to be, or what was it? If you could just let us know in terms of.
No, to be very honest, I was not very sure about if economics was going to be my primary focus or not. I had my HLs and SLs figured out. I have chemistry, English, and math as my HL levels, and I have psychology, Hindi, and English as my SLs. Initially, I was going for this behavioral economics approach where I was focusing on economics and I was combining it with psychology and as AI level math, like to go ahead with it so I can like learn a lot of statistics and like learn more about behavioral economics initially. But over the past 2 years, all of like a lot of it has changed. I am now more focused on economics, not on behavioral economics as such. I like developed a liking towards public policy. And even for my college, I don't think I'm very rigid about exactly choosing my major. And the best thing about US is that you can actually change your majors later on as well. So colleges are quite fluid with it. So it's not a, it's not set in stone. So you can actually relax about it. It's an entire journey, the entire education process. So no one's that bound to actually be that tied down to it. So that's been a great thing for me. And I just moved along my path in my journey, and I just figured out whatever suits best for me on my interest, and I just kept picking that up. There was not that deep thinking in picking out the subjects or anything like that.
Wonderful. I think as we speak and discuss your HLs and SLs, that stands out to me is that even though you got into Vanderbilt with a major in economics, economics was not one of the HLs or SLs that you pursued at school. Correct? Did I get that wrong or did I hear that wrong?
No, no, I think you got that wrong. I had economics as my HL as
Acha,
well.
you had it. Okay, then you whatever. Huh,
Yeah,
okay, cool. So then this will go out of this thing. Okay.
definitely. Okay.
Okay, so besides these HLs and SLs, did you end up doing any other APs to support your application? Or
I had no other APs to support my application.
okay, so this
I
is it.
just did my IPP. Yeah.
Perfect. And do you have the faintest idea? I know it's not supposed to be out in the open, but of course you can take a, you can take a guess. So from what I understand, if you can elaborate, what was your 11th grade end score like on 45, and basis that what your predicted usually would have looked like. Of course, you're not sure what that's all confidential. The reason I ask this is because um, you gotten into Vanderbilt with economics as a major, right? So if you tell this score, probably our viewers or listeners can know that this is the ballpark you're looking at in terms of the academics bit of it.
If I'm looking at the academics bit of it in IBDP program, I think my predicted score would have been around 42, 43, I guess. Over the past 2 years, the scores I had been getting would have been consistent with that. Of course, I dipped down in like one subject when I had fever and all of that. But if I'm just supposed to take an average out of my scores, it would approx be around all of that. And the other students I have talked to and like who have gone to Vanderbilt, they had similar scores.
So it's right to say that if you get about a 42, 43, as you predicted on 45, you can expect that to be a reasonable score to be accepted at Vanderbilt, of course, given all the other uh, factors get into play, correct?
Definitely, I think if you're getting above 40 and like if it's about like 42, 43 benchmark, then I think it's a competitive score and like that's a score you can like, apply to like pretty prestigious colleges with.
Perfect. So that's good to know. Another thing that I heard in the previous part of your conversation is you mentioned that you had not taken the SAT. You applied being SAT blind, meaning you did. I mean, you've taken the SAT. I'm aware of that, but you did not apply with the SAT scores. So, what's your take on people who want to get into competitive schools with an SAT blind approach? In today's day and time, of course, a lot of schools are going SAT compulsory. But what's your take on that? Were you confident that not applying for SAT would have gotten you into Vanderbilt? Like, how does this? What's your mind frame on that? If you could just let our viewers know.
I think not applying with SAT has been one of the mistakes I have personally made. I think SAT definitely gives you an edge over like other applicants. When you're applying to like colleges in US and anywhere actually, for any college to completely understand your curriculum, for example, IBDP, ISC, it's quite hard for them to exactly gauge where you stand because IBDP is not exactly converted into GPA when you talk to any of the counselors. So when you're coming from that approach, SAT gives them a clear cut view about what, like, your academic prowess. So I definitely feel I should have gone ahead and, like, bettered my SAT scores and applied with that. That does make you stand out from other applicants. That does make you seem to be like more academically capable. So I think that's one mistake I made. I think SAT is a must for applying to like top tier colleges. I think I've been lucky with getting in without SAT scores, but I think SATs are damn important for getting into prestigious colleges.
I'm also aware that you did end up taking SAT a couple of times, but for whatever reason, you were not able to hit that perfect 1500 mark. I know there's been 1490, there's been a 1480, but not a perfect 1500. And I know there are a lot of people in your boat who are not able to kind of touch the 1500, because in my opinion, a certain level above 1500, 1510, 1520 is honestly categorized in the same bucket, meaning a 1520 is not all that different from a 1560 or a 70, honestly, however you spin it. But for people who are just there at the periphery, just 20, 30 points short of 1500, what are the three tips you would like to give them so that they can achieve that score, whether it is in terms of preparation, starting early or whatever? If you could just let people know, because I know that a huge chunk of students are stuck between 1450 and 1500.
I'm sorry about that. For SAT, I didn't really get the best SAT score, so I can't give the exact advice about how to prep for SAT. But I think you should definitely review your mistakes, because at a point I think I was just in a rut. I was just like doing the papers again and again. I was getting the same scores, and I was kind of stuck at this point without even realizing what my mistake was in the previous paper that I made. And later in all the exams that I did give, I realized that there was a pattern about the mistakes that I was like making. So I feel if you are more thorough with actually going through your mistakes, understanding them before try to attempting like a different SAT, and not just relying on your mock scores too much. Like for example, in my mock scores, I even got a 1600 once, and I was relying on that too much, like to think that that's what my evaluation of like my real SAT score is going to be like. So that did not turn out the same way for me, at least, and I'm not a very good test giver. So for me, it was that on the SAT day, I would be really nervous. I'd mess up my paper, and that happened like quite a few times with me. So I think one thing I would like to tell everyone is that you don't only have one chance to give SAT. You can give it as many times as you feel like. So it's not the end of the world. I got into my college without the SAT scores, and I know quite a lot of people who did get in without SAT scores as well. It definitely does give you an edge, but it's definitely not going to stop your entire academic journey and like your college life. So you can try hard for it. You definitely should. You should review your mistakes and everything. But on the test stage, just realize that it's not going to be the end of the world if you did not perform your very best.
Perfect. I also want you to kind of, and this is a real content, right? So I think somewhere in as a part of this, one of the biggest questions that people tell us is, oh, you can only take SAT two times or three times. ऐसा नहीं होता है, right? Like you can take. I know people have legit taken SAT six times or seven times, and while that is not encouraged, it's really okay. Like you can submit the best of the scores. So somewhere if you can, like, in the next part, like right now after I stop, you can just say that, one of the things that I would want students to know and would really encourage is to start your SAT prep early. The earlier the better. Somewhere in the 10th grade, if you can accommodate that, that's perfect. If not, I also understand. Other than that, one of the most important things that you can keep in mind is there is no upper cap on the number of tries that somebody can take for getting the SAT score. You can take it multiple times until you achieved your dream score. In fact, taking it multiple times will improve your confidence if you are not a great test taker, and will eventually push you in the direction of getting your dream score. Say this in your own words. Go.
Yeah, okay. So one thing I'd like to tell people is that there are a lot of myths going around SAT and the number of times you can give it. The colleges get to know how many times you've given the SAT scores, and it doesn't work like that. You can give SAT scores 6 times, 7 times, or how many times you feel like. And now with the digital SAT coming up, you have way more chances to actually give STs. So it's become way more convenient. So one advice I would like to give to everyone would be to start SAT as soon as possible, because you can start from 10th grade itself and like the end of 10th grade, and because of that you'll have like multiple tries to actually work on the SAT scores. And if you're like me or not a that great test giver, so starting off early would actually give you that edge, because as you give more SAT scores, you'll be more calm while giving your scores, and it'll actually result in you getting a better score. So I would definitely say start working on SAT earlier on, from 10th grade itself, and don't be that nervous about you have to just crack it in this one go, because it's not the end of the world. You can actually give SAT scores as many times as you feel like. You can just send the best score or the best super score that you want to universities.
Wonderful. So now we will get to the profile bit of your application, which I think is the part that I am interested in the most, because I was fascinated when I read your resume, when I read your stuff. But I'm going to roll this around to you, and I'm going to let our viewers know about the four activities, like the top four. Of course, we'll talk about the rest as well, but your top four according to you, which was like fantastic. It broke the roof, and it kind of made the universities that you applied to take a note of you. Which were those four activities? And if you can debrief each one of them, your roles, your responsibilities, what did you do, that would be great, so that it can get the viewers an idea of what lines they should be curating their profiles on.
Okay, so if I was to like excuse me, if I were to name like four activities that were my top activities in my application, it would definitely be Ek Prayas. Ek Prayas was this storybook that was curated by like me. Like it was a storybook for economics for little children, so that through picture book and short stories, they're able to understand key concepts of economics way earlier on in life. I realized that when I started studying economics in 11th grade, it was quite hard to to understand every single concept, and I could not understand why you have to start economics and subjects like these so late. While these are the subjects that if it's basic theory, you can start building onto these things way earlier. So from my book, I helped underprivileged people to actually understand financial literacy from way earlier on in their lives. So I worked with government schools and like schools in my areas, and I contacted other people who can actually provide sessions for me as well. I worked with teachers to actually make these students understand what financial literacy is, and I think I'd have a copy of it as well. I think this was the book. It was
Wow, is
not.
this available on Amazon for people to
It,
buy?
it, it is available on Amazon, and I, I didn't want to do it for profit purposes, so I made sure to actually help out students without any personal gain in this.
Wow.
Or so that's the way that's one of the top activities I had. Another activity I had was my Cash Companion app. In that app, it's a budgeting app that actually help people track their expenses, work towards their goals, and actually monitor the expenses very well. I think it was digitizing this entire this hisab rakhne ka practice. It was just digitizing the entire process of bookkeeping and everything for people to actually better understand their finances. And I used to go to the factory with my dad, like where he works, and as I talked to more people over there, I realized that people are not very advanced even in this age regarding their expenses. So through my app, they were able to understand, like get the best schemes that could help that could help them the best way. So there was a list of FDs or mutual funds that they could invest in with the money that they have saved and work towards a goal, and like a timeline for their goals, like how long it'll take them to reach that goal. My other like top activity would be my internship with Deloitte and the government. This is where my main interest regarding public policy came from. So I was working at this intersection where I was working in the government office with Deloitte. So I was interning with Deloitte that time, and I've worked in UP, like as UP tried to achieve the $1 trillion economy goal. So during that time, I worked with various other sectors while I figured out what policies would actually, like make people invest in UP the most, or which policy would actually help the community, and how every single policy is curated. So I understood how, like, every single clause in the policy is a different impact in different groups, and how the government and like Deloitte is trying to work to actually promote the economy and the livelihood of people in India. So that's where like that's a very hands-on experience for me, because I was able to understand how all of this theoretical stuff works in the real world. And another top economy, like top activity for me would be working with Grow. So that internship was very important for me, as like that was where I worked with clients to understand stock portfolios. That was where my entire financial interest came from. So these are the top four activities I feel made me stand out, because like working with the government or with a a unicorn company, or like other two founding like the startups that I did, non-profit startups. I think those were the two like four things that gave me an edge over other things. And if I was to compound this with my research work and other stuff related to these same fields, I think that was really helpful in my entire application.
Wonderful. So I have a couple of questions regarding this, right? You mentioned that you worked as an intern at Deloitte. Wanted to ask you, how did you secure that internship? And if somebody wanted to, replicate working at the big fours, or even the McKinsey BCG Bain, which is like above the big fours, at least that's how I think. How can they go about reaching out to the right people? Because from what I understand, under 18 folks are not allowed to work in corporates in India, unfortunately. So how can you go about reaching out to the right people, talking and putting yourself out there that, hey, I need this internship, and how did you go about doing it?
For me, luckily, I was really fortunate to be in the school I am. So I was able to land my internship. Like by talking, like I knew who to exactly talk to regarding my internship. For Deloitte, you can just go on their website and contact a few people. You can mail regarding your resume. And my internship at Deloitte wasn't a paid one. So that puts you in an easier bit actually. So while you're working there just to learn, so it's not that big of a load on the company itself. And for Deloitte, I was also working in the intersection with government. So with government, you can apply to various other schemes within the government itself. So if you just Google it online, you'll be able to find few opportunities where you can work with the government itself. So definitely, it's a hard spot to land, but there are ways you can achieve the government internship and other places like Grow. And if you go about the corporate world, if you're applying for internship in Grow and other places like that, there is a strict review process where you're interviewed, and if your application, if your resume doesn't stand out to them, they won't be taking you. And I think if you want to figure out who to exactly talk like come into contact with regarding this, you can just go on the company's websites and you can Google about their internship programs, and you will be able to figure out exactly how to go about it.
Perfect. So one thing that you mentioned is government internships. Are there any specific websites that students should be looking at to land in government internships? Of course, you are in Jaipur, so you may have something which is more Jaipur specific. But if somebody wanted to say work in a government internship in, let's say, a UP or a Bombay for that matter, or a Delhi, how can somebody go about doing that? I'm not talking about the process of getting selected. That's part two. I'm just saying, just to figure out those internships, how can somebody go about doing it?
I think if you want to actually land a government like internship, all of it is available on the government websites as well. If you just Google about internship programs regarding a specific government scheme, you'll be able to find the right people to contact, or who exactly you should approach regarding the internship. I don't have any website in the back of my mind that I can tell you like exactly just go on this website and you'll get this sorted. But if you're just googling in general, you'll be able
So
to like
let's say
get.
now you put this answer in this way, right? What were you looking for? What were you searching on Google when you got this internship?
I got this internship mainly through Deloitte, not government itself, but government has other options also for people to apply to. Because I was working primarily as a Deloitte intern, and luckily Deloitte was also working with the government, so I was at the intersection of both.
No, so I'm saying that if somebody had to do this, right? Let's say, for example, I want to work in the healthcare of India, kind of like an Ayushman Bharat, right? So what should I be googling online? Is what I'm trying to ask. No idea.
Zine about that. No idea.
इंटर्नशिप्स इन आयुष्मान भारत with मिलता है क्या?
मैं आपको exact बताऊंगा।
नहीं है. चलो जाने दो. So we'll skip this part and we'll come back to it later on. Okay. My next question to you would be, you mentioned that you've done some research work. If you can elaborate what your research work was and how did you tie this to your profile, meaning, everything that you did was related to economics, but how did you kind of go through the process of selecting the topic, writing down the research paper, probably getting published? How does that work for a student who wants to do this?
If I'm talking about me, my interest in the research work that I took up came from my internship itself. So I worked regarding public policy, and I worked about how different SEC sectors are coming up in UP and how they will actually work to boost our economy. So I did a peer reviewed paper where I looked at other published papers regarding SEC, like SEC cities coming up in UP, and I took the case study of Noida in specific, where I combined the data I had from my internship and the data I got from other published papers regarding Noida or other areas like that. So I reviewed the upcoming growth that's coming in my city, like different sectors coming up. There's like, for example, Lucknow being like labeled as the IT, like the Gautam Budh Nagar being labeled as the IT hub, and Lucknow coming as the drone and AI technology center. So I researched about that during my internship, and later I wrote about that in my paper, and also cross-checked this, like, with other SEC sectors in India by looking at the peer reviewed papers and doing all of that.
Wonderful. And did you have a mentor from school who was assisting you? A lot of times people come back and tell us, hey, I don't know, like, I know what I want to research on, but I need somebody to guide me through this process of writing the research paper because there's a certain format, there's a certain language that you need to do. So, how does a student go about looking for those resources if he was to do this all by himself?
Luckily for me, the place I worked in with Deloitte, my mentor there itself had published a few papers and she helped me out with writing mine as well. But for any other student who does not have the same fortunate encounter, they can go on websites like Luminaire where they can have a mentor guide them through the entire process. So I think that's very helpful for people who have no clue about how to exactly do the proper research or figure out how the entire paper works and how to get it published. So things like sites like Luminaire are actually really helpful for students like us. So we can apply for their batches, and we have like Ivy professors actually helping us through our entire research and helping us work through the entire thing.
Wonderful. Let's talk about one thing before we jump to the Vanderbilt part of it, which is what got you excited about Vanderbilt. But I wanted to understand, have you done any summer schools and do you recommend for any students to do summer schools, especially the prestigious ones? Because a lot of students have this thing about, oh, should I do a summer school? Should I not do a summer school? Which summer school should I be doing? So if you could just clear the air about it, that would be perfect.
I think for me, summer schools were really important because it gave me this insight into how college life is actually supposed to work. So I had my summer school at Oxford. So I studied there at Somerville College at Oxford. So while I was there, I was staying in the dorms, like how I was living the exact college life that any Oxford student would. So being there, actually being taught by professors like Oxford professors, that gives you the insight exactly how your entire life is going to pan out at a certain college. So I think going to a summer school is very important, as you're able to understand how college life exactly works and which college you actually want to pick. If I were to suggest people which summer school to go for, I would definitely suggest like Wharton summer program and other US based summer programs in any Ivies. The summer program I went for was quite short, so I regretted that bit. So I think if you're going for any credit based summer program, that would be an ideal option for any 10th grader, I would say.
Wonderful. And for the Oxford program that you mentioned, what was the application process? What are the requirements, and how soon should a student start? If you can just tell me what is the program about and all the good details, then we could paste put it in our description below. We can link the program so that anybody who wants to do things that you did, they would absolutely be able to do it.
Definitely. So for Oxford, for me, they go by age groups. So I was another 16 to 18 age group. So I started in the end of my 10th. I was the beginning of 11th. I started my Oxford program. The application is how any other college application works. There was a state like purpose of statement and basic resume you have to input with your transcripts that you've the recent grades you've gotten, as well as like why question, why like why you're asking like why do you actually want to be the part of the summer program and why they should be enrolling you in it. So there's basic questions like that and my transcript going. So just how any generic UK process works. And as for how US process works, I don't have too much knowledge about that, but I think it's on the same lines as you work through this. It's about how like your transcripts are required for applying to any summer program, and you need to write a personal essay about why you want to exactly be enrolled in the summer program and why you are the right pick for the college.
Wonderful. And what is the name of the program you applied at Oxford?
I would have to tell you the exact name. I just applied at Oxford
That's a
Summer
Google
School.
करके बता. I'll repeat the question.
Yeah. मेरे पे इसका सर्टिफिकेट का पिक्चर रखा था तो मैं वही देख के आपको बता देता हूँ.
This was an on-campus क्या program?
हाँ हाँ, इट्स ऑन कैंपस प्रोग्राम. कोई एग्जैक्ट नाम याद नहीं आ रहा है. For me, I went for Oxford Summer Courses करके.
नाम ही ऑक्सफोर्ड समर कोर्सेज.
Yep.
एंड क्या मेजर था उसमें?
मेरा था बिजनेस एंड एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप.
मेरे को लिंक भेज देना अगर कभी मिले ना तो.
हाँ, आपको फिर लिंक भेज दूंगा.
कितने दिन का था ये?
Mine was 2 weeks.
2 वीक्स क्या?
Yeah.
ओके, ठीक है, कूल. ऑलराइट, चलो अभी वैंडरबिल्ट वाले पार्ट पे जाते हैं. So I think that's a
So,
fantastic profile that you kind of elaborated, and the academics that you displayed and all of the good stuff. I also want you to walk us through the process of writing essays. Like, I've read your essays and I find them really, really good in terms of, very creative. So, what was your headspace like while you were doing the essays, and what should students, let's say, list 5 things that students should keep in mind while they're writing these essays, because they are an important component of you know applying.
firstly, I can't stress enough how important they are. And no one should take personal essays
Well,
as
firstly, I cannot stress how important essays are. यहाँ से बोल, they are से नहीं, मतलब हाँ, and then you continue whatever you have to say.
okay.
क्योंकि इसकी रील बनेगी इसलिए.
ठीक है.
तू बोल.
I just find it funny ऐसे.
नहीं, बिकॉज आई एम थिंकिंग राइट, व्हेन आई जैप ऑन टू कंटेंट राइट, मैं पूछती हूँ तब मैं सोचती हूँ ये बन जाएगी. अगर जरूरत नहीं है अलग से रील कंटेंट बनाने की, उसी में से मैं काट सकती हूँ तो उसी में से मैं काटूंगी, राइट? इट्स मोर नेचुरल व्हेन यू स्पीक आउट ऑफ योर हेड.
Hmm.
कंटिन्यू.
Firstly, I can't stress how important college essays are because while any reviewer, any admission officer is reading through your application, everyone sees basic grades and your co-curriculars and everything like that. And while they're going through like 40,000 applications, I think they've seen enough people with good grades and enough people with great extracurriculars as well. So for them to actually realize if you are the right fit for the college or not, the one thing that makes you stand out and makes them know who you are is your college essay and your personal essay. I think one advice I would like to give to everyone would be to be as real as possible as they can be in their college essay, because everyone tries to like just sort of take some shortcut in it, or just try to show like how they have just been like a great person academic wise or sports wise. But I think what's most important is to be completely genuine and transparent with them, because when you are truly transparent with the college admission officers, you will be able to show how you are the exact fit for the college. Because once a person's read like 40,000 applications, they know what a fake one sounds like and one crafty one sounds like. So for them to truly feel connected to your application and for them to take that interest in your application, I think the more genuine you are with your college essay, the better it would be for your application. And other thing would be, don't take any shortcuts in it. Don't try to use any AI tools. And definitely, it's it seems like a great shortcut because anyone can just feel like, oh great, that it's such good grammar. You can just get in like 2 seconds when you just type in a prompt. But all of it just seems so mechanical. And once you've reviewed your essay like a billion times, you'd realize that no matter how much you work the AI, it's not going to get you the result that you would want. And it's never going to compete with a truly genuine essay that someone's written after like 17th draft or something. So definitely put in your own effort and don't just take any shortcut through AIs and stuff like that. And third advice I would like to give to everyone would be, don't be disheartened too quickly. It doesn't take 2 or 3 drafts or 5 drafts. Personally, for me, I know I have taken more than 20 drafts to reach the final goal of my essay. So definitely don't give up and take enough amount of breaks, because everyone gets this writer's block in the middle. But one advice would be, just be calm and actually just sit in front of your essay and think about what exact story in your life truly stands out for you and what's made you you, and just give the most sincere version of that story to the admission officers. And I think that would be the best essay that's going to come out of you, that whatever you might do.
Wonderful. You also mentioned something which is not being disheartened, but I'll put a spin to it. This entire college process can be extremely time consuming, but also, very emotionally draining, because you spend 1 or 2 or probably 4 years of your life just aspiring to get into a college, building up your activity list and writing your essays. It's one thing after the other, maintaining your academics, getting your test prep in a line, and then oftentimes you either get waitlisted or rejected, right? So and then you don't get to the college of your first choice. Like, for example, you mentioned that you were waitlisted at NYU but made it to Vanderbilt in your ED2. So can you just let our viewers know how to deal with something like that, and how, honestly, I think it's not that big a deal to not get into the college of your first choice, but how would you tell our viewers that what should their thought process be if they encounter something like this, where they've been waitlisted, or they've been they've not gotten into the college of their first choice?
Okay. So for all the viewers, I'd just like to say that I know it's a truly disheartening process. Any other student aspires for ages to actually, they actually build up their dreams about the ideal college life. They research a college. They actually have this entire phase where they just can only imagine themselves to be in this one particular college. And I know from first-hand experience that's not a very fruitful experience when you do not get in and you don't see the glittery acceptance letter that everyone wants. And it is very disheartening, but I'd just like to say that college process is not a very it's not very linear in a sense. It's not that every single thing has one particular marks in it, and then after that you're just gonna get admitted or not admitted. So one thing wrong I did initially in the process was associate my own self-worth with the college I'm going to, and that should definitely not be the case. I think all of us should aspire to be at a good college and work our way to it. But I don't think no one that anyone should tie themselves that much to one particular college or one particular rejection, because you apply to tens of colleges, and there's definitely going to be a right college for you. And as I said earlier, it's never a rejection, it's just a redirection. You will definitely end up at a place that's actually meant for you, and you will find a community that actually supports you and is actually there for you. So it's, I know it's a disheartening at the start where you might get rejected, and there's some acceptances and some rejections, but at the end of the day, you only need that one acceptance, and that's all that actually takes. You might get rejected from like 20 colleges, but if you have that one acceptance that you really are meant to be in that one college, that one acceptance is actually all you need, and you shouldn't actually let those other rejections get to you. That's at least what I learned in my entire course of rejections.
Perfect. And building on acceptances and rejections, what is your one piece advice for somebody who is building a college list? Like, what kind of colleges? Like, usually people say so many ambitious, so many reach, so many safe. What's your take on that? Like, what's an ideal mix of the number of schools that somebody should be doing? Like, I once met this one student who actually did 35 colleges. I'm not even kidding, right? It was ridiculous because she thought she could do 35 colleges, and she didn't come from a school which restricted the number of colleges she could do, which is why she took the liberty of doing 35. But what is the ideal number of colleges that you should do as a student? And what should be the split of colleges? How many ambitious, how many reach, how many safe? And how can you categorize that this college is ambitious for you, this college is reach, and this college is safe?
Personally, for me, I myself applied to about 33 colleges. So I am not of the opinion that you should do less colleges. I think a lot of it depends on probability. So if you're just applying to 30 colleges, I'm pretty sure you're going to get into like 3 or 4 colleges, even if you're not the best applicant. And that's I think that's what worked out for me. And I think the more colleges you can do, the better. But definitely don't compromise on the quality of your application. If you can make sure your quality of the application and your essays is top notch, then definitely apply for as many colleges you feel like. And I can't exactly say how many safeties any person should have, but I think about 6 to 7 safeties is good enough for anyone, and the rest should be about your dream colleges or your reach colleges. I think if you're supposed to characterize dream or reach, it would solely depend on your application and what your academic journey has been like. If you have been a top performing student and you have great extracurriculars, definitely Ivies is the reach for you, is the dream for you. Then those would be your dream colleges. Apply to all the Ivies, do Duke, Vanderbilt, and all these colleges. You can have reach to colleges like Boston and other colleges like that's going to be your reach, and you can do your safety at other colleges like UIUC and places like that. So I don't think I would like to categorize colleges just based on one, like you can't really categorize colleges for everyone. I think the reach, dream, and safety is going to be different for every single student. It solely depends on the grades a person's gotten and how focused they have been in the last 4 years regarding their college admission process.
Wonderful. Have you had a chance to speak with admissions officers in this entire process? Like, if they, a lot of times colleges like come to campuses and you get a chance to interact with this admissions officer, or you explicitly write an email and you contact them. So, have you had a chance to speak with any of the admissions officer at school or otherwise? And do you encourage students to go about doing that?
I have had the chance to contact a few admission officers. For example, NYU does come to the like to the school I study in, to JPIS. So I had the privilege to talk to the exact person who's going to be reviewing my application. And one thing I'd like to tell everyone is that one thing I'd like to tell everyone is that admission officers aren't as scary as they might seem. If you were ever to get on a call with one, or if you would ever interview one, I don't think it's that daunting of a process. I do feel that they don't completely like being emailed or being reached out to that much while your application is in the box. So I don't think anyone should be reaching out to like, admission officers that much or disturbing the entire review process. So I don't personally advise going in the middle of that. But definitely, before you haven't finalized your colleges, I think you should definitely have a word with all the college admission officers that you can possibly come in contact with, as they are the best people to give you the overview exact of what they would want in your application. And there's no one rule to exactly what colleges want from the application. Every single college looks for different things. So coming in contact with the college admission officers before you've submitted an application is the best thing to do, because you know exactly what this particular college that you are aspiring to go to is looking for. So I think that's really helpful, but definitely don't try to reach out to them in the middle of the process.
So basically, try to get in touch. I think this is what the process should look like. First, you should craft your list, ambitious, read, safe. How many number of colleges that are. Probably categorize in, oh, the top 10 or 15 I'd like to get into, and then the bottom, and then the bottom pile. And in those 10 and 15, you can then start reaching out to the admissions officer before the application process starts. Try to kind of build a rapport, run your profile by them, see what they have to say about your profile, and then make a call if you're a right fit, you're not a right fit. Because from what my understanding is, usually admissions officer are may sugarcoat and say it, but they're pretty frank about what they think about your application, whether you should apply, you shouldn't apply, what are your chances of getting in, right? So that's that. What's your take on demonstrated interest? Do you know what DI is? Did you do any DI or demonstrated interest for any of the colleges? Do you encourage students to do DI?
I don't think demonstrated interest actually matters that much before an application. Definitely, if been deferred, then you should definitely be following up with the college regarding your deferral. But I don't think most colleges take into account about DIA that much.
Perfect. And now let's talk about your school, Jeshri Periwal International School. I am very aware of the fact that it's a great school from the perspective of students. What I also love about the school is the fact that the atmosphere at the school is very, it's competitive, but it's not cutthroat. There's a very fine line between something being, oh, I'm never going to show this to you, and somewhere where you're nurturing. So I just want you to tell our viewers, and everybody else, that what what important role did Jeshri Periwal International School, or JPIS, and hence your counselors there, played in getting you this admit, in terms of nurturing you as a student and nurturing your profile.
I
इसके अंदर से
think,
रील कटेगी तो आराम से समझ के बोलना.
okay. I think I have been very fortunate in my entire college journey, because landing in JPIS was the best thing that could have happened to me. Because JPIS is the right fit for anyone who's aspiring to go to a good college, because the atmosphere there is really great, because it actually broadened my horizons. Because initially for the college process, I used to think, okay, you do a few debates, you have decent grades, and that I think that's all you need for applications. But being at JPIS and looking at what every other person is doing, maybe getting government grants for making houses and actually relocating slums, to actually using old demonetized currency to make bricks. I think being at GPIS, I've realized that there are no boundaries to anyone's imaginations, or no boundaries to anything you can actually achieve. So being in JPIS has actually allowed me to reach out for anything I can do, because being there, I realized that okay, yeah, I can aspire for great things, like okay, interning at a government office, or aspiring as like reaching about like 1 lakh people, 1 lakh students regarding a book, getting your book published and reaching that many people, or actually getting your app published in app in iOS and otherwise as well, or just actually achieving things that before this you would never thought would be possible. So I think JPS has been very crucial to actually nurturing me and giving me the right mindset to never take my failures that significantly, and never to be that impacted by them, but actually learn from my failures and learn from my peers and understand what I am truly capable of, and always challenging my limits.
Perfect. This is a great read. This one thing that you want to. So I'll make two reads out of this, right? I want you to tell one more thing. So I also would, and this is how you frame it in your own words, right? But I also love the way systems are set up in JPIS, wherein, the moment you enter a school, the school itself helps you build a profile and portfolio. Your teachers go out of the way to help you out, your counselors go out of the way to help you out. More than anything, as I said, the cutthroat part, I genuinely admire that about it. So one of the things that I like about JPIS as compared to a lot of other schools that I have seen is that we're competitive, but it's never cutthroat. Like, I have sat down with some of my best friends, and this is something that Patni told me. I didn't know this, Patni and Preet both. That, I have sat down with some of my friends to write their common app or help them brainstorm ideas for common app without thinking that, we're applying to the same school. And yet, the atmosphere is collaborative rather than saying, oh, how can I better or how can I steal that idea? And that, in hindsight, is a testament to the soul or the core of JPIS, if you can say that. And this is true. I know for a matter of fact that Patni said, we were sitting down, we were doing all of this together and all of that.
No, I have personally worked on so many other people's common apps, so I know about this. Like working in that student lounge,
So say
everyone's like
that, because
writing
this is
each other's.
something
Yeah.
that, they would like to know, because this is, I feel, is the core value for JPIS. That, it's not like, see, when I see my Ambani kids ना, ऐसा छुपा छुपा होता है, ओ मैं इसको नहीं दिखाऊंगा, मैं उसको नहीं दिखा, अरे चिल मार dude, जिसको जहाँ मिलने वाला है मिलने वाला है. But with JPIS, I see this sense of, oh, I want a good admit, but I'm also rooting for you to get a good admit. We don't have to be at each other's throats to get a good admit. And this is something that JPIS as a school propagates. So you should stress this, because it's very rare that you come across people where the spirit is collaborative, it's not cutthroat. Now you say it. I said whatever I had to say because I got these inputs from Patty.
Okay. And one other thing about JPIS is that definitely there is competition here, but it's never cutthroat environment here. Everyone's very nurturing and very collaborative with each other. One of my core memories would definitely be like sitting in the student lounge while the teachers have allowed you and given you permission to actually work on your common app, and sitting with your friends brainstorming ideas, helping each other out with what exact lines would suit perfectly for their essays, and just figuring out what is the best way for everyone to achieve a great college. One thing about JPIS is that no one really feels that their great admission is going to deny any other person of their admission. It's just everyone sitting together and figuring out ways to actually achieve the same goal together and actually getting there in the most nice way and like the most memorable way possible. So I think just sitting there in the student lounge, working out the ideas regarding any co-curricular activity or working out ideas regarding which anecdotes would best suit in my common app, I think the collaborative atmosphere that I have received in JPIS, I don't think I can really receive that at any other place. So I think that's been one significant boost in my application, that I landed in JPIS and I had this kind of atmosphere around me.
Wonderful. This is a perfect reel. I don't need to do any recut takes because it came naturally to you, right? So yeah, and this is the truth. You're not lying about it. So I know that also.
Yeah.
Now one last thing before we close the interview. What are your aspirations once you end up going to Vanderbilt? Like, what do you plan to accomplish? Of course, we can probably touch base a year later again to see whether you've accomplished them and what has been the pivot since this point in time. But as somebody who's gotten into Vanderbilt and is excited to embrace that American college life, what is it that you plan to get out of your college experience at Vanderbilt?
I think if I was to imagine my first year at Vanderbilt and like my entire college life, one thing I would definitely want is to continue some of the activities I have done and actually have the opportunity to interact with people who have actually gotten into Vanderbilt and the great community that there is waiting for me. So I would love to be a part of that community and actually have the opportunity to have that interaction with everyone, and just have a community that is supportive and have an entire education journey that doesn't actually pull you down but have people around you that actually support you and motivate you. So I think what I'm truly waiting for at Vanderbilt is to have the sense of belonging in that community and to be surrounded by like-minded people, as all of us try to achieve things that we want to, and all of us try to continue endeavors that we have started, and definitely explore new options and figure out new interests.
Wonderful. So I think this was a fantastic podcast, in my opinion. We learned about your academics, your test prep, your mistakes, your profile, things that JPI has got to the table for you, and overall, stuff that I'm sure a lot of students can learn from. I will definitely link the Amazon link to your book and anything else, any other collaterals that you have for me. I will also share your email ID at the back at the bottom, so in case if people who have questions regarding Vanderbilt or just general profile building or JPIS, they could reach out to you, of course. And I wish you all the very best for this journey ahead. I hope Vanderbilt brings to you all that you dream and desire and more. And you're able to figure out your major and achieve all your dreams, and may all of them come true. So, all the very best for that. And thank you so much for sparing time for us. About 50-55 minutes we spent today debriefing us about everything that you did in this journey. I am sure when students watch this, they are really going to be interested in knowing you and your journey, and I'm sure they're going to be benefited out of this. They will be benefited out of this. Yeah,
Thank you so much for actually having me here, and I think it's been great talking to you. And I think it's great if I'd be able to help out even one student in the same process that I've been through. I know it's not a very easy process to go through, so I'm really grateful, and I'm really happy to be of any help to anyone. Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you so much, Arav. We look forward to meeting our next candidates in the next episode, and thank you again.